Where are these Vedic sounds? You see, if you understand that, you should understand the significance of this Maha Mantra we are chanting. Generally, Pranava or the Vyakritis or Gayatri Mantra or the Vedas are eternally in space. Space na enna solren? Parama Akasham nu solren. Let me tell you what I mean by Akasham. I'll go very slowly, step by step, because we should realize the significance of what has been presented to us by our Mahatmas and specifically our Guru Maharaj. What you see me, I see you, right? This is happening in what is called as physical space. And this physical space is one of the 5 elements. One is the space, then you have air, then you have Agni, which is fire, light, everything. And then you have this wonderful water, Apaha, and then you have Prithvi. So these are the 5 elements. If you see, our Sanatana Dharma's system of classification of matter is far more evolved than even the current science. If you go to any science teacher and ask how do you classify materials, they give a very not rigorous way of splitting, because our children in primary school or secondary school will say we classify matter as solid, liquid, gas. Then I say if I boil water, it becomes gas. Oh, adu well at room temperature. And when you don't have any pressure, at room pressure, atmospheric pressure, this is not a good definition. Na? Very beautifully Rishis says first principles should remain first principles. What about smell? Matter has something called smell. Na? Matter has something called touch. So how do you classify matter? You are classifying it only from Rupam standpoint. What about others? And our Rishis said, this is how we look at the world. How do we actually interact with the world? With the 5 senses, na? With eyes, nose, tongue, skin and ears. So let the matter be actually resolved into these 5 channels of how we interact with the universe. So if you take any object, how do we classify the object? There is space in the object. There is a little air or a sense of touch in the object. There is form or color in the object. There is taste in the object. And of course there is this sense of smell in the object. So using these 5 senses, they divided everything into 5. So in that Akasha is one of the important elements. The quality of Akasha is sound. Because if there is no space, there cannot be any sound at all. Sound has to travel as a compression wave. There has to be space for sound to travel. So Akasha's quality or Tanmatra is Shabdham, right? And I see you, you see me only if there is space. If there is no space, there is no seen, there is no seer, nothing is possible. So now I see you, you see me in the space, let me call it as a physical space, alright? But then is this the only space we know? Let us go to a very mystical experience we all undergo when we go to sleep. When we sleep, we dream. Na? I don't know if you are truly curious. If you have to tell me a theory of everything, it cannot be just the waking state. Na? Then it's not everything. When a scientists are proposing theory of everything, they are talking only about the universe, which I see only during my waking state. But then I have a sleep state, I have a dreaming state. 1/3 of my life is spent in this state. How can you call it theory of everything then? It is only theory of waking you are telling me how the universe is made of and what is that one thing which can explain a waking universe. But our Rishis went even further. They said when you are dreaming, it's such an interesting experience. Since it happens very frequently, we take it for granted. When we are dreaming, you can see, you can go to Tirupati in your dream, you can have darshan of Tirumala, Tirupati, our Perumal in the dream. So when I am seeing something in my dream, there has to be a space there also, no? Otherwise how can I see? But then it is not a physical space. It is, shall I call it mental space? But you see, it's very, very beautiful in the dream. That hill, what is the hill made of? My thoughts. What is the object which I see made of? Suppose I see my friend in my dreams. My thoughts. There is nothing else in my dream. Who is seeing it? My thoughts. What is the process of seeing? Thoughts. A simple mind has conjured a hill, it has conjured a seer, it has conjured a seeing and a scene. All this happens in a space which I should call as my mental space. The space is also me, or the objects are also me, And what I see is also my thought. And the seer is also my thought. Incredibly, we are conjuring something which I don't know how people don't feel mystified by it. Incredible. We have created the whole thing there. That is called mental space. Now there is a space beyond these two. Yo parame vyoman abdinu Veda Mata solra. And that space is, if there can be a physical space and something which transcends physical space called mental space, there is another space called space of consciousness. Just like how only my mind has conjured everything and created a separation, I am seeing a scene, I am a seer, I am seeing, and I am doing in my dream. Likewise, in that space of consciousness, it is called Chidagasam. Chit abdinnale consciousness. Akashamna space. It is not the space like I see physical space. But then, when I see somebody in my dream, am I seeing somebody? Is my eyes open? I only thought I saw somebody because seeing was also a thought. But to explain to somebody, how can I ever say? So I will tell you, I saw you in my dream yesterday when my eyes were closed. How did I see them? With my mind, I saw them. How did you talk to them? Your lips were not moving, but the mind was talking. With the mind, I talked. But then we have to use only a physical metaphor to explain my dream experience, because otherwise I can't explain at all. And like Tulsidas Goswamiji says, so hai akat kahani. Solla mudiyada kada. You see, I can't tell it. So I use what everybody can understand in my waking state, saying, I talked to you, I saw you in my dream, etc. When it's all only thoughts. Go to the same step in the state of consciousness. That is a state when the mind is absolutely silenced and it is not sleeping. It is what is called samadhi. Since we have never tasted it, we can't deny it. You see, somebody who has never dreamt at all, how can I explain a dream to that person, you tell me? I will say, hey, there is a space called mind space. Just like how you speak in the physical space, it also is possible in the mind space. Now you will never understand, you will never believe. It's not possible. There is no space at all. I am closing my eyes. I have not moved from my room. How can I go to a beach in my dream? Hey, you can. Until you actually have the dream, you won't understand what I am saying. I can explain the dream to a person who never dreamt only with the language of waking. Likewise, when we are in the state where we have silenced the mind, either by continuous chanting of Harinama, or by controlling the breath, diet, Rupa Dhyanam, Nama Dhyanam, or by inquiry, or whichever way we silence the mind, I now get an opening into a greater space. Or if you understand, for youngsters, a level 3 video game. You actually get a key to level 3. In that level 3, there is a space called Parame Vyoman. In that space, there is Vaikuntham. In that space, there is Veda Mantram. In that space, there is Maha Mantram. In that space, there is Pranavam. Depending on how you approach the space, you can see the same truth shown in all these various ways. You see, it is in that space that Mahatmas communed with Bhagavan. Bhagavat Sakshatkara cannot happen in physical space unless this is Archavataram. A Bhagavat Sakshatkara cannot happen in the dreams. Bhagavat Sakshatkara happens when the mind is silent and we enter into that consciousness. But consciousness is one, so is your mind. That one mind is creating all this in the dreams. Andamari, if mind itself can create it, the mind sponsor is our consciousness, and that consciousness has all these Anubhava, Veda, Mantra, etc. That's why we say Vedas are eternal. A Rishi gets to that level 3. In that Samadhi, he sees those mantras. And the mantra drashtaha rishihi. They see the mantra, but what they see there, the beauty is, it is now dropped down to earth in form of physical voice. What I speak, you hear, etc. So, our Veda Mata gives a wonderful philosophy of sound. She says that sound or speech exists in 4 levels. First is what I hear, it comes as compression wave, hits your tympanum and you hear something. It is what is called as Vaikari, which is what is called physical speech or auditory speech. And then there is one level inside called Pashyanti. Then there is one level inside which is the speech in our heart, the mental thought speech. It's called Madhyama. And then in its real root, it's called Para. And that para is the state of consciousness. So every sound can pull us back into para if it comes from para. You understand what I'm saying? Para means consciousness. This is what we actually mean when we sing Chidagasam Tannil Milirndidum Namamam Yoga Siddhi Nalgidum Kirtanam Padire Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. இதுதான் our Swamiji says, I have seen this Maha Mantra in that Chidagasam. அங்கேந்து பிடிச்சி எடுத்து கொடுத்துருக்கா. Why? Because it is Upanishad. It is from a Kalisantarana Upanishad. So Mahatmas, Rishis have seen this mantra there, brought it down here. Just like how we brought down that Krishna who looks like this in Goloka into a proper form to the physical universe in form of Archavatara. Archavatara is no different from Goloka Krishna for us because this is how he manifested here. Likewise, this divine sound, if you keep chanting, it will resonate with its original state which is in consciousness. That's how you will get jnana. Mattabadi talagila ninnu you read million books. இங்க வேணா கன்ஃபியூஷன் வருமே தவிர இங்க அனுபவம் வரவே வராது. யார் சொல்றா? பகவான் சொல்றான். நான் அகம் வேதைஹி ந தபசா. He is saying not by Vedas, you learn everything, you read. You think you understood, but you have not got it until you get the experience. That experience will come only by Bhagavat Kripa. Acharya Kripala தான் வரும். ஏன்னா only a small bit of curd can make 10 gallons of milk into curd. Whatever the milk tries doing it with all the churning will not get curd at all. Experience begets experience. That's why we have an unbroken tradition. We have people who are Mahatmas, almost for every lifetime there will be a Mahatma. We may classify them as they are Advaita Mahatma, Vishtadvaita Mahatma, Dvaita Mahatma, they are beyond all that. They just play the game for the sake of upholding a tradition, because in that Anubhavam, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdyate, that Anubhava is one. They may speak different languages, but then their experience has to be one, because the truth is one. Ekam Sat, you see.